What's up, my comic comrades? Back in October, DC kicked off its all-in era, including the various Absolute Universe titles that we've been covering extensively. And throughout the various storylines over the past few months, we've seen a few references to events in Geoff Johns' Flashpoint Beyond series, which got us thinking about what a great story it is, and that it deserves a complete story recap. So today, for your watching or listening pleasure, we've got the complete Flashpoint Beyond story from issue 0 through issue 6. So enough chit-chat, let's kick this pig. The issue starts off with Batman. Which Batman, you ask? Well, I'm assuming Prime Earth Batman, but who really knows anymore? Anyway, Batman is staring at a chalkboard in some ransacked, rundown, old subterranean-looking office. The chalkboard says 5G averted, which is obviously a plan of the whole DC 5G initiative that almost was, but got turned into Future State because of lots of different reasons, from the Warner merger, sales, pandemic, yada yada yada. The chalkboard also says Fall of the Justice League, Rise of, with Batman standing in front of the rest of the sentence, so we can't see. The board also says, why is Deathstroke not acting like Deathstroke? Imposter? Anyway, as Batman continues to walk around, he finds things like notes on the ground that say Divine Continuum, with a diagram that says Omniverse, Multiverse, Hypertime, Dark Multiverse, Metaverse, the Sphere of Gods. So clearly we're dealing with more reality warping, continuity changing events within the story. Anyway, Batman then says, we found it, as he walks into a huge vault. Voices then say, yeah, Batman, but if we found it, someone else will too. And if the maniacs who hang out here catch any of us, we're screwed. Batman then says they won't. The Time Masters have their own problems right now. They'll never know we were here. As we see, the people that Batman are talking with is Mime and Marionette, original Watchmen characters created for the Doomsday Clock story by Geoff Johns. Marionette then points Batman to Janie Slater's watch, which is right next to a snow globe. If you don't know, Janie Slater is Dr. Manhattan's former girlfriend. Anyway, Batman takes the snow globe saying, I shouldn't do this, I know that, but I am. He then leaves the vault telling Marionette, we're done. You have a little girl to get back to, don't you? Congratulations, by the way. And before Batman leaves, he sees another chalkboard that says Thomas Wayne will die, which he erases before leaving. We then get a huge splash page that recaps Flashpoint for us, which I'll read to you guys in case you need a refresher or you've never read that story. It says the following: when Barry Allen traveled back in time to save his mother's life, he changed reality into what became known as the Flashpoint. In this new timeline, Bruce Wayne was murdered in Crime Alley instead of his parents. His father Thomas became a violent and angry Batman, and his mother Martha went mad with grief, taking on the twisted identity of the Joker. Barry Allen sought out Thomas Wayne and convinced this Batman to help him change reality back. In doing so, Thomas would save his son. They succeeded, didn't they? And with this, Flashpoint Beyond kicks off with the Clockwork Killer prologue. Now, before diving straight into the Flashpoint reality, I do want to mention the last time we saw Flashpoint Batman, or Thomas Wayne Batman, was in Justice League Incarnate issue 4, when Darkseid hit him with the Omega Sanction. And now here in the 0 issue of Flashpoint Beyond, it starts with Thomas Wayne being woken up by the Penguin back in his Flashpoint reality. Oswald Cobblepot, who works for Wayne in this reality, is waking him up, basically saying, you have a meeting with Judge Dent, and he's charging you with murder if you don't do what he asks. At this point, Dent comes charging into Thomas Wayne's office with 2 police officers saying, why hasn't he gone to Arkham to visit my wife like I asked, Cobblepot? I told you she won't talk to anyone but him. Gilda has become obsessed with Martha. Thomas echoes, Martha? Dent says, your late wife, the Joker. Batman may have saved our daughter from that lunatic, but the trauma Martha put her through, getting shot, watching Commissioner Gordon die, even with Martha dead, Debbie was haunted by that awful laughter. Thomas then says to himself, no, this isn't right. Martha never became the Joker. Barry changed it all back. But Dent continues to press Thomas, saying, your vengeful actions drove Martha mad. You murdered Joe Chill. I can prove it. I will prove it if you don't help Gilda regain her sanity. I won't fail my wife like you failed yours. At this point, Wayne gets up and leaves, saying to himself, this is wrong. As he gets into the elevator, continuing to think, Barry changed it back. I remember I was ripped out of time by the Reverse Flash. Dawn turned me into a living paradox that shouldn't exist. Yet I did. I tried to force Bruce to quit, but I was cruel and I was wrong. I realized the world needed my son. That he made the Batman into something good, unlike me. I remember Darkseid, his eyes glowing. I should be dead. And Bruce should be alive, but he's buried right here with Martha, as we see him visit their graves. He continues to say to himself, the first thing I do is break into Star Labs. I've learned enough about the universe beyond this one to know that this could be an alternate world mimicking mine. But the vibrational frequencies I've registered tell me Darkseid didn't send me to some parallel Earth. I think he was trying to destroy me, but I'm home. This is reality. So what the hell is going on? So someone is messing with Thomas Wayne in the Flashpoint timeline, but apparently it's not Darkseid. Also, I love the kind of passive-aggressive jab that Johns takes via Thomas Wayne on Tom King's Batman run when Thomas teamed up with Bane and did a bunch of horrible stuff to force Bruce to quit being Batman. Only when Thomas Wayne was written by other people like Josh Williamson, they made Thomas be like, I was wrong, I shouldn't have done that. And Geoff Johns is adding on to that as he's like, yeah, that was out of character, which he definitely should know as he's one of the co-creators of Thomas Wayne Batman. Anyway, as Thomas is staring at Bruce and Martha's grave, we see Martha Wayne Joker talking to him in his head, saying, "You thought you saved our son. No, Thomas, it was a dream. That's all. A wonderful little dream." I gotta say, it's nice to see Martha Wayne Joker again. I wish we got more stories of her, but hey, absence makes the heart grow fonder, right? We then see the news talking about the war between the Amazons and the Atlanteans, a war which the Atlanteans won, meaning it's only a matter of time before Aquaman brings his army to American shores. We also see that somehow Cyborg and Abin Sur have been brought back to life in this reality as they died in the original Flashpoint story. We also see that America is fearing Flashpoint Superman as he's free from his bunker, and America and the rest of the world think it's only a matter of time before the rest of the Kryptonians come to Earth and help Superman invade and conquer Earth. As the news anchor says, we must prepare for a Kryptonian invasion, because I don't believe his planet blew up like some have claimed. We then see Thomas in his Batcave looking up the address of Barry Allen, but he hears something and turns around and sees that someone wrote "Everything Matters" on his chalkboard. He then asks, "Who wrote that? Is that you, Thon? Are you back? Is this revenge for me putting a sword through your spine? I'll do it again. Everything matters? No. Not here. Nothing matters. Nothing matters." He then punches the chalkboard, breaking it. If you guys didn't pick up on it, the quote, "Everything matters," isn't just a random phrase written on his chalkboard. No. "Everything Matters" was a slogan during Scott Snyder's Crisis event, Death Metal, where by the end of it, the whole point of it was that all continuity matters. Everything matters. But here, Thomas Wayne thinks that's complete and utter bullcrap. So much so that he punches the chalkboard that says it, shattering it. I can't help but think this is Geoff Johns' cryptic yet passive-aggressive way of saying through Thomas Wayne Batman, why did they mess with the continuity I reestablished in Doomsday Clock and DC Rebirth immediately after? So now he's like, oh, everything matters, huh? No, nothing matters, evidently. At least this is my takeaway from this. Thomas says to himself, I'll change it and save Bruce. I'll change it all back, and I'll kill whoever did this. Trying to fix the Flashpoint timeline yet again. We're then briefly taken to Central City, where this world's Barry Allen is investigating the fourth victim of the Clockwork Killer. After investigating the body, he then proceeds back to his apartment where Thomas Wayne is waiting for him. Barry says, "What the hell are you doing in here? Wait, you're Thomas Wayne." Thomas says, yes, I'm Thomas Wayne. You remember me." Barry says, "Remember you? There isn't a person in America who doesn't know all about you, Dr. Wayne." Thomas replies, "Then you don't remember anything. Barry, what I'm about to tell you, I know how insane it's going to sound because you once told it to me. I'm the Batman." Barry replies, "I told you I was the Batman?" Thomas says, "No, I'm the Batman, and you call yourself the Flash. Let me explain." Thomas then breaks down Barry's origin, how his mother was killed, his father was blamed for it and then imprisoned, and how Barry became the fastest man alive and broke the time barrier to travel back to the past to save his mother's life. He continues to say, "You were like a bullet and all of history was a windshield you hit. The reverberations from your actions at that moment in time rippled backward and forward, reaching out to the people closest to you and changing their histories. People like Arthur and Diana, Clark Kent, Hal Jordan, my son, Bruce. The world was drowning in chaos because of what you did, but together you and I restored your powers and you changed it all back. But now someone's done it again. Someone's altered everything, and I need your help to save my son and the world." Clearly, Barry is confused and thinks Thomas is crazy and ultimately tells him, "Get the hell out of here," and that he's calling the station. So Thomas says, "I can't wait for Barry Allen to believe me," as he hits him with a sedative in his neck. Thomas then tells himself, "I'll have to do this slightly out of order," as he pulls a syringe out of Barry's neck and ties him up. He then brings Barry to the tallest building in Gotham City. Here he plans to recreate what he did to Barry Allen in Flashpoint that gave him his powers back. Barry, now strapped into essentially an electric chair with chemicals, says, "What the hell are you doing?" Thomas says, "Proving I'm right. I was hoping we could talk this out and then we'd get your powers back so you could fix everything. But I'm not as convincing as you." Barry says, "You have to stop this, Dr. Wayne." But Thomas tells him, "Barry, you have a wife and children, a family, a legacy, even a museum, though you're embarrassed by all that attention. You taught me there was a better way, my son's way. He's a Batman that I'll never be. It's different when you lose a child. It can break you. It broke me. Forever. The rage, the guilt, the pain. I've done so many bad things, but it doesn't matter. You'll make sure of that." Barry says, "If I'm hit with a bolt of lightning, I'll die." Thomas says, with his hand on Barry's shoulder, "No, Barry, you'll save everyone, including me. Soon, this will all be over." But as Thomas says that, a harpoon hits the chemicals connected to Barry. As he screams, "Get me out of here!" lightning then hits the device, frying Barry like an electric chair on crack, killing him, leaving him nothing but a melted, burnt corpse. Right after this, Cobblepot calls Thomas Wayne saying Judge Dent and the police are on their way here right now. Selina says they're going to arrest you for the murder of Joe Chill. But we see the sniper who shot the chemicals also shot and blew up Dent's car, killing him, with Dent's son yelling, "Dad, save me!" Batman is able to save the kid from the car, but not Dent himself. The boy then tells Batman, "There he goes, he shot those things right at the cops." Thomas then says to himself, "He shot the harpoon, spilled the chemicals, corrupted the process. He killed Alan. Why?" One of Aquaman's surface allies, an assassin. What's he doing in Gotham? Batman then captures the assassin, which is clearly an alternate version of Black Manta, or at least someone very similar. Batman violently interrogates him, saying, "What do you know about Barry Allen?" The man replies, "Aquaman, he said he was going to use Barry Allen to change things. He said I had to kill him." Batman then says to himself, "What? How would Aquaman know any of this?" Batman then tells the dude, "Tell me everything you know," or the man then says, "Do whatever you want to be, Batman, because now that I've failed, my king, the Atlanteans, will only do worse when they find me." Batman says, "You murdered the only man who could help me." The assassin says, "I've murdered a lot of people. I could say it's in the name of Atlantis, but the truth is, I like it. I like to hurt people, men, women, and children. I like to watch them die." You see, we can be allies. We're the same. Everyone knows the Batman is a killer. You're like me. Batman says, "Shut up," but the assassin keeps pushing Thomas's buttons, saying he's just like him, a cold-blooded killer. As Thomas says to himself, "Don't do it, Thomas. Be like Bruce. You learned how to be. Don't give in. Don't." But the assassin finally says, "We're both monsters. I see it in you. It's like looking in a mirror. We can share stories of what we've done. Our greatest kills. Have you ever watched a child die?" This causes Thomas to remember holding his son's lifeless body in Crime Alley as he brutally kills the assassin by smashing his head into the wall several times. It is extremely gory. Saying to himself, "This won't matter. Nothing will." Then in the epilogue of the issue, we see that Bruce Wayne from the beginning of the issue has brought Janie Slater's watch and snow globe into the Batcave. We see someone off panel talking to Batman in the cave saying, "Hey Mr. Wayne, this isn't gonna end well for you or your dad." Batman says, "I told you to go away." But the voice says, "It's incredibly disruptive, you know. What you're doing could threaten everything, all of space and time, the divine continuum itself." As we see the divine continuum on our chart, breaking it down into the omniverse, the multiverse, the dark multiverse, the metaverse, the sphere of gods, hypertime, limbo, and the vanishing point. Batman then says, "Considering the number of times I've saved the divine continuum, it owes me one." The voice then says, "This is going to come back and haunt you. I'm not joshing." Batman says, "If you could stop me, kid, you would have already done it." The boy then says, "Maybe you don't need to worry about me alone, but Dr. Hunter is going to be awfully sore when he finds out you broke into our lab. He's going to finally get us Time Masters back together. Dr. Smith, my sis, and even me, Corky Baxter. And Dr. Hunter is going to have us change your history, and I could already guess how too. And boy, will it be something. So don't say I didn't warn you, Mr. Wayne. You just opened up a can of worms, and we're going to make you eat them." As we see him sitting on top of the Snyderverse Batmobile with the Keaton Batmobile behind it, which is dope. I was thoroughly shocked and pleased to see Baxter sitting on top of Ben Affleck's Batmobile. So cool seeing it in the comic books. Same with Keaton's, but we've seen it in the comics plenty of times before. Anyway, to say that Corky Baxter, Rip Hunter, and the rest of the Time Masters are not too pleased with Bruce would be an understatement. Okay, so that closes out the Flashpoint Beyond Zero issue with the Time Masters outsmarting Thomas Wayne Batman, so let's move into issue 1. Speaking of being outsmarted, we all know you can find pretty much anything on the internet, and that unfortunately includes things like your personal email, your home address, phone number, and even who your relatives are. And all that information is easily accessible because of data brokers who profit by selling your information to robocallers, telemarketers, spammers, and anyone else that wants to learn more about you. But now you could be the one doing the outsmarting with today's sponsor, Aura. Aura will identify data brokers that are exposing your information and automatically submit opt-out requests on your behalf. They'll even opt you out of junk mail and telemarketing lists. You could use our link, aura.com/variant, to try it for free for 2 weeks and see how many data brokers are sharing your information. Aura also monitors your emails and passwords to see if they were involved in a data breach or exposed on the dark web, and then gives you recommendations on what to do. Aura's app also features a VPN, password manager, real-time credit and identity theft monitoring, internet parental controls, and protects your devices from malware. Aura basically has every internet safety tool you'll ever need, all inside one app. So let Aura do the hard work of keeping you safe online. If you sign up now, Aura will give you a 2-week free trial with our link. I promise you'll be shocked at how much of your private information Aura finds exposed over those 2 weeks. Go to aura.com/variant to start your free trial. It's also linked below in the description Woman or scan the QR code. Flashpoint Beyond issue 1 starts off with a TV reporter, Linda Park, reporting on how the Atlanteans are set to sink Great Britain. We also learn that the Amazons have been captured by the Atlanteans and are being executed by Aquaman. We even see a clip on the TV of Aquaman saying, "The surface continues to strip the world of its resources and poison it with its waste. You will retreat from the oceans immediately. You will turn over your nuclear weapons to Atlantis. You will recognize my total authority or you will drown, beginning with Britain. You have 12 hours to comply or the oceans turn red." Then on the second page, we see this news report is playing on Thomas Wayne's TV while he eats dinner with Harvey Dent's son, who was just orphaned last issue. Captions from Thomas Wayne basically break down his entire origin. He sums up that 20 years ago, he watched his son Bruce get shot to death by a thug named Joe Chill. At which point he hunted down Chill and killed him. But that wasn't enough, so he found everyone in Gotham who reminded him of the cowardly criminal and then killed them too. He also says, "It wasn't long ago, a man named Barry Allen showed up and told me the world I knew wasn't supposed to exist. He told me that the past had been changed and that my present was a twisted nightmare of the truth. Barry said Martha and I were the ones who were shot to death in front of Bruce, that I should have died in a dark alley next to the woman I love, and that Bruce would then grow up to become the Batman. A Batman that doesn't kill." Thomas goes on to say Bruce was looking to protect others from suffering loss like he had. "It's admirable, but a just world is a child's dream. I know that more than ever now. I foolishly held on to hope that I could change the world into one where my son would live and thrive, but it existed momentarily. Everything has been altered back, and somehow Aquaman is involved. The King of Atlantis sent one of his assassins to kill Barry Allen before I could transform him into the Flash. My best chance at changing the past is dead," as we continue to see Thomas eat with Dexter. At this point, we see Oswald come into the dining room saying, "You called, boss? I came." Thomas says, "I have business out of town. While I'm gone, I need you to watch the boy for me." Oswald says, "Me?" Thomas replies, "There's no one else I could trust right now, Oswald." Oswald asks, "But why is he even here?" Thomas tells him he was a witness. He might prove useful. He continues to say, "Dexter, this is Oswald. I'll be back later." As Thomas is leaving, Oswald follows him saying, "When you said you needed my help, I didn't think it was to babysit. Like, what do I feed it?" Thomas looks at him annoyed saying, "I'm sure you'll figure it out, Oswald." As he heads down to the Batcave, Oswald points out that the grandfather clock that opens the door to the Batcave is 11 minutes slow. As Thomas is gonna walk down to the Batcave, Oswald asks, "Wait, what am I supposed to do with this little bastard?" Thomas says, "I don't care." Oswald asks, "Where are you off to?" He tells him, "I'm going fishing." We then see Dexter sneak up behind Oswald and scare him as he says, "Sheesh, kid, don't sneak up on a person like that. And stop staring at me with those dead eyes of yours. Creeps me out. So what do you want to do today?" Dexter tells him, "I want to learn how to shoot a gun." Oswald pauses before saying, "What kind?" In the Batcave, Thomas stoops up and grabs the gun that was used by Joe Chill to kill Bruce as he sets out to find Aquaman and find out why he sent an assassin to kill Barry Allen. We then get a few panels of the Atlanteans taking over Great Britain. After this, we see that Wonder Woman has been tied to a wooden post with her own lasso of truth as the water slowly rises, which will eventually drown her. Two Atlanteans show up with one saying, "The Emperor wants the Queen to drown alone. We shouldn't be here, Topo." He responds, "This surface witch killed my brother, my sister, and my father. Before she drowns, I have a few things to say." He then gets in her face and says, "Do you even remember them, Wonder Woman?" She replies, "Who?" He says, "You murdered my family, you and your Amazons. The Emperor may want you to die in the rising waters, but before you do, I'll hurt you." She then says, "I can't hear you. Come closer." And when he does, she bites off one of the tentacles from his face. At this point, Topo says, "She dies by my hand. My trident down her throat." But the other Atlantean says, "In the water. Do you see it? What is that?" And on the next page, we see it's Thomas Wayne Batman in scuba gear who comes shooting out of the water, blowing both of their heads off. Wonder Woman then tells him, "I thought you were dead." He replies, "So did I." She then says, "Let me loose." He tells her, "I didn't come here to free you, but I need your magical lasso." She then says, "I'll kill you if you try to take it," which we know is truth because the lasso is currently around her. Batman tells her, "Yes, I know that. I also know the lasso is the only thing that's keeping you tied to that pole. But I need to get information from Aquaman. I'm asking to borrow it." She tells him, "What do I get in exchange?" He says, "You get to live, and you might still have enough time to free your sisters before this island sinks into the sea." Batman asks, "So do we have a deal or what?" On the next page, we are taken to Emperor Aquaman's throne room as he's staring at the ocean orb, hearing the clock tick, waiting to follow through on his promises that he made earlier on the news. But wouldn't you know it, Batman sneaks up from behind and puts the lasso of truth around his throat, asking, "You sent one of your assassins to kill Barry Allen. Why did you do it? Who asked you? Why?" But Aquaman just grabs the lasso and throws Batman over his head. But with the lasso still around Aquaman, Batman says, "No one can resist the lasso. Answer me. You sent the scavenger to Gotham to kill Barry Allen. Why?" Aquaman answers, "Whoever sent the scavenger, it wasn't me. Now I'm going to tear your head from your shoulders." That is the truth. At this point, Oswald starts talking over the comms to Thomas, saying, "The casino. There was a bomb, and it's been leveled. It's gone, all while Aquaman is choking out Batman and then just leaves him on the ground. Aquaman then walks away with the lasso in his hand saying, "You think you're the first one to come and try to stop me? To save the world? I'm saving the world." As Thomas says to himself, he didn't send the scavenger and the casino. Stupid. Someone wanted me out of Gotham. I've been played. Sloppy Thomas, too eager to follow the trail without looking close. Did someone pose as Aquaman to use the scavenger? Aquaman then says, "You're a fool to release Wonder Woman. She'll burn this world to the ground. You have to know that. I'm sure she's out there already, waging war against my Atlanteans to free her soldiers. But Wonder Woman can do what she wants. She and her Amazons will die on this island. It sinks as soon as I touch my trident to the ocean orb." He then says, "My trident? Where?" Then on the next page, we see Wonder Woman impale Aquaman from behind with his own trident. She says, "Your reign is over, Emperor, and so is man's. You fool, Arthur. I loved you." Aquaman with his last breath says, "I loved Mira. You killed my only queen." Wonder Woman then tells Batman, "Our deal is done, unless you wish to try to stop me too." He says, "No, I got my answers." She says, "Then leave. Tell the world I'll be coming for them." He responds while walking away, "It doesn't matter. Nothing matters here." He then returns to Wayne Manor where he says, "By the time I return, news of Aquaman's death has spread, as has news of Wonder Woman and the Amazons reclaiming Britain and announcing their advance into what's left of Europe. I'm left with more questions. Who would use the scavenger? Why would someone want me out of Gotham to destroy the casino?" As he sees Oswald teaching Dexter to fire a gun in one of the living spaces. But Thomas doesn't much care as he has other things on his mind. Oswald then follows Thomas and says, "Boss, the casino. We should get down there. Boss, who do you think did it?" Thomas says, "We'll check the security cameras." Oswald tells him they were disabled, but there's gotta be evidence that you could find, right? I lost a lot of good people. Whoever did it, you're gonna make them pay, right? With their lives? Thomas answers, "Don't I always?" We are then taken back to the main DC reality, where Barry Allen Flash comes running into the Batcave saying, "Bruce, are you okay?" He replies, "I'm fine, Barry. Why wouldn't I be?" "What are you doing here?" Barry says, "I felt something. Thawne's back. He tried to tap into the Speed Force again, but I spit him out. I tracked him to Gotham, to your home. But now, maybe he's masking his trail somehow." It ends here. Barry then runs around the Batcave looking for any clue of the Reverse Flash he can find. But once Barry leaves, we see Corky Baxter still in Bruce's Batcave like at the end of the last issue saying, "The Flashes will find out what you're doing too. You know that. I might not be able to stop you, but they will. It's not too late to undo this." Then as Batman stares at Janie Slater's watch, the former girlfriend of Dr. Manhattan, Bruce just says, "Yes, it is." The comic then concludes saying, "Next, death in hypertime." So clearly Bruce is the one messing things up and has some sort of plan. And with that, we're on to Flashpoint Beyond issue 2. The issue starts off with a view of a corkboard full of newspaper clippings about the time traveler murders, with captions of Thomas Wayne's narration that read, "While I was lured out of the country, there were 3 more murders by a madman the media has dubbed the Clockwork Killer. The police think the victims have no connection, but they do. All these people are like Barry Allen. In my son's timeline, like the Flash, they had unthinkable and dangerous powers to affect time. Those characters being the powerless Flashpoint versions of Captain Atom, Lord of Time, and Dr. Time." He continues to say Bruce wouldn't have been tricked into attacking Aquaman while these killings occurred. "My son is a smarter Batman than me. He's younger, methodical. I'm old, angry, and reckless. I'm as corrupt as this world and everyone in it. All of it born out of Barry Allen's inability to process grief. Out of mine, but none of it will exist once I find the killer. I won't exist, because everything around me is an echo of a lie. Nothing matters, except the motive. Why would someone want this timeline back, and who do I have to kill to fix it?" We then see Thomas walk out of his Batcave while the narration continues. There are time-traveling champions from the future that would have made their presence known if they still existed. Legionnaires, the Robotic Man, Booster Gold, yet there's no sign of any savior from tomorrow. That's how I know I'm alone in the fight to save my son and his world. Thomas is then greeted by Oswald asking how his trip went, with Thomas just responding, "Badly." Oswald tells him, "The commissioner called. She thought you'd want to meet her at the casino." Thomas says, "There is no casino." And Oswald replies, "And that's a big problem, boss. From a cash flow standpoint, your source of income to fund your life as the Batman has been cut off. Do you think someone knows about your night job?" But Thomas just keeps walking the other way saying, "We'll discuss it later." Oswald catches up and says, "About the kid. I think there's something wrong with him. He heard about the casino and he wants to know all about explosives." And Thomas replies, "So teach him." Cut to Thomas Wayne meeting the commissioner at the casino explosion crime scene as the commissioner tells him, "It's still officially a rescue operation, Dr. Wayne, but at this point we're not hopeful to find any other survivors. I'm sorry." Thomas replies, "It's not important." And the commissioner says, "Which? Your dead employees or your dead revenue stream? I'd have guessed you'd give a damn about at least one of them." Thomas just ignores her picking up a Wayne casino chip, then asks, "Does your team have any clue on what kind of explosives were used?" She answers, "We're still processing the scene. One more thing, you know how Arkham inmates like to talk? There's one named Roger Hayden, goes by the name Psycho Pirate. He said he came to Hypertime to take refuge from a dark crisis. He also told me that Bruce Wayne was supposed to be Batman." Thomas replies, "So? He's speaking nonsense." And this is a reference to the connection between the Flashpoint Beyond story while thinking to himself, wait, of course, the Psycho Pirate. Finally, a lead. On the next page, we see Thomas Wayne Batman approaching Arkham, with internal dialogue from Thomas saying, in his file, Hayden was labeled a paranoiac with a grandiose delusional disorder by the doctors at Arkham. But from what I know from Bruce's reality, Hayden is the only one whose memories never changed despite reality changing around him. So the doctor's psychoanalysis is wrong. Hayden isn't being paranoid when he says someone's always trying to reshape the world. That's true. The Anti-Monitor, Superboy Prime, Darkseid, and Barry Allen. Hayden also isn't being delusional when he says he sees things from a higher place than the rest of us. He's watched the world be rewritten so many times now that it's snapped his mind. I'm almost sorry for him. He probably doesn't remember what reality is supposed to look like anymore. Batman then breaks into Arkham and takes out a guard using his key card to enter Hayden's cell. But when he opens the door, he sees Hayden has hung himself, or seemingly has. As Batman notes, even a rookie on the GCPD would see that this was designed to look like a suicide. But he doesn't need to talk to tell me something. He looks at the writings on the wall of Hayden's cell, reading, Bruce is Batman, Infinite Crisis, Allen, West, Garrick. He even sees the name Judy Garrick, but isn't sure what that means or who she is. He continues to read, the childminder has the lost children. Pariah is like all the others. I don't think I'm the real Roger Hayden. To which Batman thinks, what the hell does that mean? I'm left with more questions than answers. And as he's walking out of Arkham looking at his casino chip, a voice from off-panel says, why did you take my boy? You have my boy. The dead man with the golden mask told me. Batman turns towards the cell saying, Mrs. Dent, did you see anyone enter Roger Hayden's cell? Revealing it's Gilda Dent in the cell. But she ignores the question, saying, I can't believe Harvey never saw it. You're Dr. Thomas Wayne. Batman says, if you saw someone, I need to know. But she just replies, I want to talk about my son. I want to know, Dr. Wayne. Is Dexter okay? Wayne responds, he watched a harpoon go through his father's chest, making Mrs. Dent say, forget it. After asking for and getting Wayne's casino chip, she ultimately tells Batman, I didn't see anything, but I heard the man get strangled with his own sheets. That's how my daughter died. She hanged herself. Her body was cremated. Harvey wanted her in the ground. I wanted her with me. We fought about it, but I won. Did you bury Bruce? Batman just stares at her with a pissed off look, and she says, the least you could do is answer that after what you did. He asks, what did I do, Gilda? And she answers, you drove your wife mad, and it started before your son's death. Didn't it? Was it your drinking or sleeping around? As Wayne imagines her turning into his wife Martha. Gilda continues, or did you just ignore her? One day you stopped talking to her, stopped listening. Is that it? You put her in the corner and let her fester there until she was convinced she was the problem. Come on, champ. Admit it. We've all done stuff. But nobody stays in the corner forever, Thomas. Eventually, if they're strong enough, they stop cowering. And at the right moment, they assert themselves to the people who made them feel like they didn't matter. We all matter to someone, Thomas. Just not you. Why is that? Martha, Harvey, me, Dexter, Bruce, you were always a bad father. This pisses Thomas off so much that he punches a hole through the cell door's glass window to scare Gilda. But she just says, that's all you have, Dr. Wayne? Why, I can hit harder than that. Watch, as she proceeds to slam her face into the shattered glass, tearing up half of her face to resemble Two-Face. But Thomas just walks away saying, it doesn't matter. And Gilda screams at him saying, it matters to me. Pain is real. Pain matters. Sometimes it's the only thing that matters. My pain, hers, and yours, Batman. As Batman leaves the asylum, he thinks to himself, no, this is not my life. I fought to change it. I thought I had. Change my pain. It doesn't matter because it's wrong. Even if no one else can see it. I know it's wrong. I'll make sure this won't exist. I'll erase it. But damn if it doesn't feel real. Batman lands in the alley as lightning strikes, looking quite epic, saying, you gave me an excuse. Thank you, and proceeds to surgically break the arms and legs of each thug. Thinking, no consequences. My old self. It's the most like myself I've felt in years, fueled by atrocity and unbending terrible purpose. One of the thugs pulls out a gun screaming, stay back, but Batman just gets closer, putting it right up to his forehead, saying, try it. Now. A close-up of the thug shows it's this world's version of Captain Boomerang, as he starts sobbing, trying to say, I will. But Batman's had enough and just snatches the gun out of his hand and points it back at him, saying, this won't matter, while thinking, this is the only way it stops here. The chaos, the fear. The look in his eyes just before it all stopped, with one pull of the trigger. If anything ever mattered, it was this. For Bruce. But right as he goes to pull the trigger, something throws him into a wall, and on the next page we see that it's this world's version of Superman, saying, I heard you, you're wrong, everything matters. We're then brought back to the main DC Universe timeline where we see Corky Baxter is still in Bruce Wayne's Batcave talking to him. Corky tells Bruce, you know you stole that snow globe from Dr. Hunter, but us Time Masters took it from someone else first, to protect the Divine Continuum from that blue-faced prodigy. Bruce replies, I don't care, and Corky says, you should, because that watch isn't the only thing that's drenched in tachyons and stuff. The snow globe is too. They're stable stabilizing one another. The big difference between them is there's no one left to come looking for Janny Slater's watch. But now that you took the snow globe out of our time vault, you might as well have written your own obituary. Because if Dr. Hunter and the others don't get here to back me up soon, the owner of that snow globe is going to be drawn to it. And if he shows up, boy, are you going to be sorry about this whole darn thing. And that brings issue 2 to an end, so let's turn the page to issue 3. Issue 3 begins on the planet Krypton of the Flashpoint universe 30 years beforehand. Jor-El is talking to Kal-El, who he sent away from the dying planet, saying, "My son, Krypton is dying. Even with our advanced science, we cannot stop its inevitable destruction. So we have sent you out into the void to save us all. You are our last hope." We also see that contrary to Kal-El being the only survivor of Krypton in the main continuity, in this universe there are several other Kryptonian kids who were sent in rockets as well. We're then taken to Metropolis as Kal-El's rocket flies through the Daily Planet and into the city, causing a massive explosion. In the wake of the destruction, a news reporter says it was 30 years ago that more than 35,000 civilians were killed when the city of Metropolis was decimated. Who could have foreseen the truth behind these grisly events that took place that day? The unredacted government documents that were recently released by Sarge Steele reveal what caused the meteor shower that leveled Metropolis. It was a rocket ship from another world, a ship carrying a dangerous alien humanoid that up until several months ago was secured until it was freed by the Batman. The news segment is playing on a TV in Wayne Manor as Oswald is showing Dexter, the son of Harvey Dent, how to pick a lock. And once he gets it open, we see an after image of Reverse Flash appearing behind Oswald saying, "I need Thomas Wayne. He's coming for me again. Hyper time." Then disappearing, Dexter asks, "What was that?" And Oswald answers, "I got no idea, kid, but I need a drink. You want one?" We're now taken back to where we left off at the end of issue 2, Flashpoint Superman, or Subject 1, facing off against Thomas Wayne Batman, saying everything matters. Batman tells him to stay back, at which point Captain Boomerang, who was about to be killed by Batman last issue, picks up the gun on the floor and shoots Superman, which of course just bounces off, and Superman just turns around saying, "Leave or burn," looking freaking menacing. Boomerang runs off and Batman asks, "Why are you here?" Superman answers, "Need help." But Batman just walks away saying, "Find someone else, I have things to do." Superman says, "Wait," but Batman replies with a full force punch in the face saying, "I said no." Of course, it seemingly does nothing as Superman just stands there while Batman gets a fractured hand. Although as Superman says, "Come with me," we see him wipe some blood off his chin, which is kind of crazy. Of course, it shows that this Superman is much weaker than the Clark Kent we're used to, since he's been hidden from the sun the majority of his life. But it also shows that Thomas Wayne is strong enough to make a Kryptonian bleed. Even with this Superman being weaker, that's impressive. In any case, Batman tells him, "There's nothing you could do or say to make me go with you, space boy. Understand? Nothing." At which point, Superman just backhands Batman across the face and knocking him out, and giving us the caption, "The Batman did this." As we're taken back to Gilda Dent being brought back to her cell after she injured herself in the last issue, cutting up the left side of her face. Now back in her cell and restrained so she doesn't hurt herself any further, she starts talking to herself saying, "I want to see Dexter." And a voice in her head answers, "You will, my dear." She then says, "The doctor said the voice, you aren't real. You're in my head." But the voice responds, "How would he know what's real? Is he a god? Does he know what you did?" Gilda tells the voice, "I only wanted to be the best mother I could be. I want Dexter back." And the voice tells her, "He'll come to us. A boy needs his mother." And then we can finish this. And we see Gilda holding the Wayne Casino chip she got from Batman in the last issue. That's right, they just officially made Gilda Dent the Two-Face of the Flashpoint universe, and I'm loving it. This admittedly isn't the biggest surprise since the Wayne Casino chip she got last issue is scratched and burned on the back, similar to Harvey Dent's coin in the main continuity. Plus the way she tore up specifically half of her face kind of gave it away, but it's definitely still cool to see it confirmed with her now developing the split personality Two-Face is known for. But moving along, we see Thomas wake up with his shirt off and his chest covered in bandages on a bed of flowers where he's greeted by Poison Ivy. He gets up, taking the bandages off and putting his shirt back on, and asks where he is. Ivy answers, "The only place on Earth that's safe, the Oasis," which is basically the forest version of the Fortress of Solitude, and I love it. She starts giving him a tour explaining, "The Superman reached out to us to help create this. A place for the displaced like him, a home for those who have none, a sanctuary, protection for the people of Mother Earth that have been forgotten and abused, much like he was." Batman asks, "The Superman made this place?" She answers, "Oh no, it was his idea, but it was Jason Woodrue who built it, the Swamp Thing." They finally make their way to Superman, and Superman's like, "Batman, you gotta see this," using the crystals he was sent to Earth with to show the Batman a message from a plant version of Jor-El saying, "If you are receiving this, my son, it means you have survived. And it means that we could too. Krypton is dying, but there is hope. Hope that we might find a new home before ours self-destructs. You have been sent to your assigned world as the other children have. Your world is called Earth. Save for its yellow son, it's not dissimilar to Krypton. It will be our new home. Your mission upon adulthood is to use your powers to disarm the humans in advance of our arrival. And then we'll conquer them as father and son. Together. Do not worry, my son, we are coming soon, and you will no longer be a stranger in a strange land, but be lauded by the hero of Krypton you now are. So in Flashpoint, Superman wasn't sent to Earth as the last Kryptonian survivor, he was sent there as a Kryptonian conqueror. Freaking awesome. Once the message ends, Superman asks Batman, "You understand?" And Batman replies, "An invasion. How long?" Swamp Thing answers, "The green is weak in the darkness, but it still speaks. 5 days." Superman asks if he'll help, but Batman asks, "Help you do what?" Poison Ivy then answers, "What do you mean what? We need to gather an army, warn the world, protect our planet from enslavement and destruction." Superman then puts his hand on Batman's shoulder and says, "My father doesn't understand the people here can be good." Batman replies, "Good? They imprisoned you, tortured you, and now your father wants to destroy them so he can give you the future you deserve? Why stop him from doing that?" Superman answers, "Because they matter. Their lives matter." Even this version of Superman in the dark and messed up Flashpoint universe has a good heart and will always do what's right no matter what, which is just great to see. Long story short, Batman refuses to gather more heroes or help at all, simply saying, "I'll find my own way home." Elsewhere, the GCPD find a dead body cut open and filled with clock parts in Iris West's apartment. The commissioner asks if they had ID, but the detective says, "Nothing. No name, no fingerprints in our system, or any other things I could find. This guy, Sophia, just doesn't exist." She responds, "For someone who doesn't exist, he sure wears some flashy threads." As we see, the dead person is the Reverse Flash, along with the word tick written in blood on the sheets. Finally, the comic then takes us into Hyper Time, where we see Bonnie and Geoff traveling in a blue sphere. Bonnie says a paradox was just reset. Thawne, I think. And Geoff tells her, "The time sphere isn't going to last much longer, Bonnie. We need to get back to the other side of the continuum. It's stable." But Bonnie explains, "The Omniverse may be relatively more stable than Hypertime, but its multiverses are being besieged by the Great Darkness, which will no doubt alter them again. We need to steer clear of the Omniverse until the League returns and the darkness passes, Geoff. Unless we want to risk our own histories being rewritten again." Confirming that all this Hypertime and time travel that's been happening in this title is related to the Dark Crisis event, where Pariah is creating a crisis with his Dark Army and the Great Darkness. Geoff says, "But maybe that's why Rip is missing. He could have been corrupted and taken control by Pariah." But Bonnie replies, "Please, no one can control Dr. Rip Hunter. That's why we're in this mess in the first place." Geoff finally says, "Let's just hope Corky doesn't make things worse." Hypertime has enough problems with Thomas Wayne still around. As we see, Hypertime is in chaos with timeline pieces of Superman, the JSA, Superboy, the Flash, and pretty much every character in the DC universe, leading us to Flashpoint Beyond, Issue 4. We start with a narration from Corky, Bonnie's brother, saying, "You're really getting on my nerves, Mr. Wayne. I mean, didn't you have enough problems with the Great Darkness making all your bad guys even, I don't know, badder? You just got over trouble in the Omniverse, so why make more by messing with Hypertime? Why try and save your father when the fact that he was even alive again was because of a living paradox? This is your last warning, Mr. Wayne. I'm serious. This is it." After a pause, he continues, "Well, okay then, you're ignoring me. But let me tell you something, you flipped your lid trying to trap that timeline, Mr. Wayne, and our universe is going to suffer the consequences." Then we're taken back to Arkham Asylum in the Flashpoint universe, where we see the janitors hear Gilda Dent talking to herself in her cell, and at the morgue, Thomas Wayne examining Reverse Flash's dead body. We get captions of Thomas thinking, "I don't have much time before this world plunges into total chaos, and I lose my chance to save my son, to save Bruce forever," as he then takes a scalpel and removes the clock pieces from Thawne's body. Now back at Wayne Manor, Dexter is watching the news talking about Arkham Asylum and how it's said to make its patients worse, while Oswald is looking for food in the fridge. But when he turns around, Dexter has made his way down into the Batcave, grabbing a utility belt and some other gear, dressing up as a makeshift Robin and saying, "Don't get scared now," giving us a nice little Home Alone homage. Seems like he's getting ready to save his mom in Arkham after he heard on the news that Arkham makes his patients worse. After Thomas Wayne gets the clock pieces out of Thawne's body, he heads back to Wayne Manor, where he's greeted by Oswald, and immediately Thomas knows that Dexter is gone, asking Oswald, "Where is he?" We then see that Dexter hid on top of a pest control van to get past the Arkham gates, and Thomas in his Batcave taking the clock pieces he just got and putting them together, saying, "Dexter Dent. He went to Arkham to see his mother." Oswald responds, "You have to stop him," but Thomas says, "I can't. I have to put this clock together." Oswald gets mad, slamming his fist on the desk saying, "Are you kidding me? I'm talking about helping a kid who lost his sister to suicide and lost his father to murder. He doesn't need to know he lost his mother to madness too. I'd go myself, but you know I'm not what they call the physical type." But again, Thomas refuses, saying, "I thought Dexter might be able to help me as a witness to his father's death. But he was one step removed from the real killer, and I'm one step closer." The clock gears that were inside Reverse Flash hold the answer. Meanwhile, Dexter breaks into Arkham, knocks out a janitor taking his ID, then two guards taking the clips out of their guns and throwing throwing them in the trash. And the next page gives us side-by-side parallels between Thomas fixing the clock and Dexter picking a cell lock. And when it's open, Gilda embraces him saying, "Dexter, our little boy." But Dexter looks at her concerned saying, "Mom, this place isn't good for you. It changes people. I'm gonna get you out of here." She replies, "Oh baby, this place hasn't hurt me. It's helped me. And it's going to help you too." And a voice off panel says, "It's going to help all of us." Horrified, Dexter asks, "Mom, who was that?" But she continues saying, "They wanted to keep us apart, just like your father threatened to do, but everything's going to be okay now." The voice off panel says, "Well, maybe not everything," and Dexter continues looking at it in horror. At the same time, Thomas finishes putting the clock together, and Oswald says, "A clock? Big deal, and you missed a piece." Thomas responds, "Oswald, that's it. It's not from this clock." He runs upstairs thinking, how could I have missed it before? And if I'm right, if this means what I think it does, it's impossible. The next page gives us a 2-page spread going back and forth between Dexter and Thomas, as Thomas then rips the face off his grandfather clock that leads to the Batcave and puts the remaining gear in place, as he thinks the grandfather clock has been broken for too many years to count. It was a wedding gift. Then he tells Oswald, "I know who the killer is." Meanwhile, back in Arkham Asylum, that voice talking to Dexter, and Gilda continues, "I miss home, a real home, with love and warmth and family." And it's revealed on the next page that it's Martha Wayne, this world's Joker, somehow still alive and well. We're finally taken back to the main DC Earth and see a burst of energy in the Batcave that came from the snow globe Batman took back in issue 1. Bruce says temporal energy, and Corky responds, "Are you kidding? It's much more than that. That's blue shift power, Mr. Wayne. It's created when the Omniverse comes into direct contact with hypertime, when space meets time. It's the most dangerous energy on either side of the divine continuum." Surprised you didn't know that. Bruce asks, "Why is it doing this?" And Corky replies, "So now you're asking for help." Ha! Corky then goes off on a long rant about literature, specifically Shakespeare's The Tempest, saying there are some neat quotes, like "good wounds have borne bad sons." Of course, the other way around is true too. I mean, your mom, she had a lot of secrets, had a lot of problems, things you don't know about, things from her past, things you didn't realize your dad was going to have to face in there. You see, I warned you, Batman, I really did. You don't know everything about everything this time. You don't know the truth about your mom. Ending the issue with a close-up on the glowing snowmen in the snow globe. Issue 5 opens just 2 days after the Dark Crisis. We first see Mr. Terrific on a talk show being asked to explain to the viewers what the Great Darkness really is. He tells them the simplest way to define it, Miss Chen, is an ancient living corruption that can infect and control sentient life. When it was unleashed, the Omniverse as we know it was nearly destroyed. Again, not that this latest disaster directly affected our Earth. Instead, the Omniverse outside of our universe seems to have been altered. Chen asks, and the Omniverse itself is defined as? He tells her the Omniverse is the totality of all parallel worlds, and the multiverses that contain them. The Omniverse is everything, and everything matters. Dr. Baxter, who was also on the show and part of the Time Masters, laughs, saying, "I've watched your Cord Talks, Mr. Holt, so that'd be a first." With all due respect, the Omniverse is hardly everything. Yes, it has been the center of the exhaustive crises that have threatened us, perpetrated by the great evils of this dark age. Evils like the Anti-Monitor, Alexander Luthor, and Superboy Prime. Darkseid, the so-called Batman who laughs, and most recently Pariah in the Great Darkness. Yes, it's all grand and bombastic, but it's not everything. There are more important matters to all this than an infinite number of Earths or how many multiverses there are. You see, the truth is everything only matters when it matters in our hearts. Which is a very meta way of saying the only things that matter to comic fans are the things that they like. But she goes on to say, let me explain. When you're referring to the Omniverse, you're referring to all of space, but not the other half of existence. Time. The Omniverse has been disrupted and transformed on a handful of occasions, but afterwards it stabilizes, including the Metaverse, which is our universe and the one from which all the multiverses were born. At its core, the Omniverse and its multiverses are conceptual in nature, while hypertime is emotional. Therefore, hypertime is never stagnant because it reacts and changes with us, perpetually growing and splintering off into an endless number of timelines. Dr. Baxter goes on to say, at every major personal crossroads, a choice is made, and it is at those times of great importance that the timeline can split. When that happens, new timelines are born within hypertime, and unlike parallel Earths that come and go like a Tinder date, these alternate timelines forever exist. Hypertime can be unpredictable, it can be violent, and it remains unexplored. That is where the Time Masters come in. We study temporal phenomena within hypertime while we do our best to police it. But during the interview, Dr. Baxter teleports away as her watch goes off with Geoff saying, "Bonnie, it's Geoff. The lab's under attack. Rip's gone. I need help." Elsewhere, we see Bruce Wayne Batman meet up with Ra's al Ghul, who's alive even though he was thought to be dead. dead. Ross tells Batman that he has his father's ashes. Batman asks, "How did you get this?" He replies, "A member of the self-appointed Justice League Incarnate is an associate of mine. I read Korvac's journal, which I found in your cave, and I've done my research elsewhere, Bruce. You can still save your father, but you don't have much time to do it." We are then taken back to the Flashpoint one day after it was recreated, where Thomas Wayne is on his way to Arkham talking to himself, saying, "This was the Clockwork Killer's plan all along. Keep me distracted while she killed anyone who could change the past. But how is she alive? How did she know about any of it? And what does she want now?" Now remember, it was revealed last issue that Martha Wayne Joker is somehow still alive and is the Clockwork Killer that Thomas Wayne has been looking for. At this point, Oswald Cobblepot, Thomas Wayne's Alfred, calls him saying, "Boss, I read the files on Gilda Dent," basically telling Thomas that she's crazy. But Thomas says, "It doesn't matter. I know this doesn't make any sense to you, but it's all going to go away tonight. You've been a good friend to me, Oswald. Thank you." We are then taken back to Arkham, where Gilda Dent was just revealed to be the Two-Face of Flashpoint, as we see Martha Wayne Joker approach her and Gilda's son Dexter. Joker wants to kill Dexter, but before she could get a chance to do so, Thomas Wayne Batman comes crashing in, with Martha saying, "Hi, honey." The two then start fighting, with Batman shooting at her saying, "Why are you doing this, Martha? Why did you kill them?" referring to all the time-traveling characters. She swings her knife at him saying, "You'll find out." At this point, security starts coming saying, "Stop or we will shoot." But Batman just throws Martha in a cell and locks both of them in. Batman tells her, "This is just about us. You died." She then asks, "What are you referring to? When we last saw each other 30 years ago in Crime Alley?" "I've been wondering about that myself, ever since the man with the golden mask was talking about Bruce. I heard him while I hid within these walls. I made him tell me everything before I killed him. How this world was changed from what it should be. How Bruce became Batman, not you. And how the Joker, if you can imagine, the Joker was a man. His name is Jack Oswald White." Finally telling us the Joker's real name, which is insane. We actually did a whole episode on the Joker's name reveal from this issue and talked about the previous names he's gone by throughout the years, so you can check that out right here. In any case, Martha goes on to say, "Before the time travelers to be, Mr. White was the first one I went to see. How could I not? Out of simple curiosity. In this world, Mr. White was a failed comedian with a wife and child, stuck in a menial job cleaning the bathrooms at Wayne Casino. But they are a happy family, happier than we ever were, Thomas," as she stabs Thomas in the side, causing him to fall through the floor to a secret hideout of hers under Arkham. She tells him, "Mr. Hayden, he sounded crazy. All this talk of other worlds, about you destroying this one to save our son. What I wouldn't do to save our son. Why do anything to save Bruce? Wouldn't you?" As she puts her hands on some sort of time-traveling vehicle, saying, "I know you have questions, Thomas, like where are we? After you left me for dead, I woke up and I found a stream that took me out of the cave. It led into the sewers, to here, like fate. It was a loony place to die. So I did it. It was where I first heard his voice, drifting down like a cleansing rain. This world shouldn't be, it said. I hunted down the people that would potentially know how to change time and took everything they knew, leaving a trail for you to follow, keeping you busy, while I built this." Then back in Bruce's cave, we see the globe cracking, with Quirky saying, "You see that, Bruce? The globe can't contain the hyper timeline. It's leaking through." Back to Martha, she tells Thomas, "We're going to go back in time and ensure that it's us who die and that Bruce lives. All it costs is the entire universe." "So what's it gonna be, Thomas?" as she puts her hand out to him while also pointing a gun at him. Then back on Earth Zero, or Earth Prime, we see Rip Hunter arrive before Bruce, saying, "You know why I'm here, Bruce." Bruce looks at him saying, "I won't let you interfere," with Corky Baxter jumping in saying, "Batman, you can't do anything to stop the boss. I warned you, but you wouldn't listen. And now you're up a creek without a paddle." Okay, that wraps up issue 5, leaving us with the 6th and final issue of the story, so hold on to your butt cheeks. Alright, issue 6 kicks off with Batman and Rip Hunter standing off in the Batcave, with narration from Batman saying, "His name is Rip Hunter, Time Master. He calls everyone by their first name, as if we're close friends of his. It drives Clark crazy. He's the most arrogant man I've ever met in my life. And considering I know Lex Luthor and Hal Jordan, that's saying something." The same goes for his fellow Time Masters, all of whom claim to know everything about everyone when it comes to the past, present, and future, including this 13-year-old boy, the younger brother of Rip Hunter's partner in crime, Dr. Bonnie Baxter. Corky's been lecturing me on the dangers of what I've done since I've activated the snow globe, warning me about Hunter's impending wrath. I stole the globe from the time lab with help of the only 2 criminals in the world who would recognize the watch that was stabilizing it. Both the watch and the globe are imbued with the chronal energy connected to Dr. Manhattan, which transformed them into temporal talismans capable of capturing and containing the Flashpoint, a timeline that was never supposed to exist. It's the only environment that can keep my father from evaporating into nothingness. So this narration finally explains to us what Bruce has been wanting with the snow globe this whole time. It's what's keeping his father and the Flashpoint timeline alive. Bruce then puts on his cowl saying, "Take the kid and go about your business, Rip. You don't want to challenge me. Not this time. Rip tells Batman, I realize this is extremely personal for you, Bruce, but imprisoning the Flashpoint inside of that globe is like trying to keep a tornado in a jelly jar. It's only a matter of time before the glass shatters. As he says this, the snow globe starts lighting up with lightning as Rip says, your father is rejecting the timeline like a body rejecting an organ. And the truth that you didn't know about your mother has made things worse. But of course, Batman isn't about to let them take the globe, so he dives for it, telling Rip, you're in my house, Dr. Hunter, and I didn't invite you. Meanwhile, inside of the Flashpoint, which is inside of the globe, we see Martha Wayne trying to convince Thomas to get inside of the time sphere, which is all set to take both of them back to that night in Crime Alley to Bruce and Joe Chill. She goes on to tell Thomas, there are 2 seats, you see, because we're going to go back and we're going to save our son together. I swore an oath, Thomas, till death do us part, and I'm going to see that through. This is what you want too, isn't it? To turn our lives into a bad dream, to erase our painful existence of grief and emptiness, to end it all. She then reaches her hand out to Thomas saying, the ends aren't the only things that justify the means. It's the beginnings too. Your mission of rage taught me that, Thomas, so now we fix this broken universe no matter who it kills. He then grabs her hand, stands up, and kisses his psychotic wife. But he then pushes her away saying, no, the people you murdered, Barry Allen, my employees. She says, oh, what are you worried about them for? You said it yourself, Thomas, many times over. Nothing matters here. At which point, Gilda, aka Flashpoint Two-Face, comes walking in with a gun to her son's head saying, let's destroy it all. I don't want to be split in two like this anymore. Harvey's the one that's supposed to be the monster, not me. Then back with Bruce, we see him continue to fight Rip Hunter, who just evaporates one of his batarangs midair with a device. We then get a splash page that tells us everything going on in the Flashpoint universe right now, specifically the Kryptonian invasion that's about to happen. As it was revealed in earlier issues that in this reality, Superman was sent to Earth to conquer it in preparation for his fellow Kryptonians to make it their new Krypton. But Kal-El isn't about this and wants to defend Earth. Then back to Thomas and Martha, we see she's still trying to convince Thomas to get in the time sphere to save Bruce no matter the cost. At which point Dexter asks, Dr. Wayne, if you do that, what's gonna happen to me? Dr. Wayne, am I going to die? He just stares at Dexter for a second before looking down saying, you won't die, Dexter. You'll never have lived. Thomas then turns to Martha saying, we have to stop this, the boy. But she says, nothing matters. No one will know. Thomas says, but it will have happened. Somehow, some way. She says, Thomas, just get in, please. But he tells her, we didn't have a choice to save Bruce that night, Martha, but now, right now, we do. She responds, you're asking me to choose him over our son? I can't. Thomas then says, I have to, as he jumps to save Dexter from his mother, at which point Gilda detonates a bomb destroying the time sphere. Gilda then starts shooting Thomas and is about to shoot her own son while saying, my son isn't supposed to exist and neither are you. At which point Martha from behind snatches the gun from her and then shoots her in the head, killing her right in front of her son, with Martha saying, I realize that may have been a touch traumatizing. At this point, the previous explosion causes everything to collapse around them, but Batman, Joker, and Dexter are able to escape, hiding on a rooftop nearby, as they all hold hands like a brand new family as it snows. Then back in the Batcave, we see the light goes out in the snow globe, with Rip now holding it after Corky attacked Batman. Corky then says, the light went out. What's going on, Rip? We gotta get it back to the lab, right? Before Bruce Wayne screws the universe up. Rip answers, no. Corky asks, why not? And Bruce says, because my father proved you both wrong. Corky says, he's lying, but Rip says, no, Corky, the globe is stabilized, even with the living paradox imprisoned inside it. Rip Hunter then looks at Batman saying, you gambled the entire universe on your father accepting a world without you? Batman replies, I did. Rip says, irresponsible doesn't even begin to describe what you've done here, Bruce. Batman tells him, no, but the odds were in my favor. Rip says, explain. Batman responds, it was in his letter, referring to the letter from Thomas Wayne that Barry Allen gave Bruce at the very end of the first Flashpoint storyline. And then the comic proceeds to tell us what Thomas's letter to Bruce says for the first time ever. The fact that Geoff Johns did this full circle moment telling us what the letter said that made Bruce cry all these years later is amazing. The letter reads as follows, Dear son, there's only one thing I know about life. I know some things happen by chance, and some things happen because we make them happen. Barry Allen was once haunted by the past, but when he became the Flash, he left the ghosts behind him. He found love, a family, and for the first time ever, friends. Barry thought yesterday was behind him, but somebody wouldn't let him escape it. When Barry came to me for help, I turned him away. I'm not the hero of the story. I'm a man who's been corrupted by his unbearable pain. I'm a man who has too much blood on his hands to be called good. I'm a man who had nothing left to live for until the day I met the Flash. Your friend taught me we can't only live a life for those we've lost, we have to live a life for those we still have. If I got a second chance, I would hope I come to understand that, to live that, like you should, Bruce. That's all parents want for their children, what we never had. Your mother and I want you to be happy. Promise me you'll try, and I will too, wherever I am. Love you always, your father, Thomas. Come on, That is utterly and completely amazing. Anyway, as we get narration of this letter, we see Thomas has secretly taken Martha to live in a cell in his Batcave where he could tend her and hopefully rehabilitate her, while simultaneously taking Dexter on as his new Robin, as the two of them go on to fight the impending Kryptonian invasion. Meanwhile, we see the Time Masters talk about all the stuff that's happened with Bruce and Flashpoint, with Bonnie asking Rip, what do we do about Bruce Wayne? He says he's gonna have his hands full with his mother's family soon. Not warning him will be his punishment, teasing a future story with Bruce's mother's family. Bonnie then asks, what about the snow globe? Rip answers, after the way we've been compromised, it'll be safer in the Batcave than in the Time Lab. The comic then teases a bunch of things to come, such as the Golden Age Mr. Miracle, the Golden Age Legionnaire, Quiz Kid, the Harley Quinn's son, Judy Garrett, Cherry Bomb, Ladybug, John Henry Jr., the Golden Age Red Lantern, and so on. Then on the two final pages of the issue, we see Cleopatra Pack, aka Nostalgia, who was first introduced to us in Doomsday Clock issue 12 as an orphan girl obsessed with Ozymandias. And we see that along with her pet Bubs, she's looking for the Watchmen, giving us a tease for the eventual return of the Watchmen. Now, while Johns has yet to fully make good on that Watchmen tease with the Doomsday Clock sequel or some other Watchmen title, he has touched on it in his Justice Society of America 12-issue series. So be sure to check that out as well. But that concludes our retelling of the Flashpoint Beyond miniseries. If you never picked up and read the full story yourself, we highly recommend you grab the full volume from your LCS. First, to read the full story the way it was intended, but also to support the creators who put in the work to bring us these epic books. In fact, while you're at it, we recommend you grab the Doomsday Clock miniseries as well. Both of those titles are just amazing. Anyway, let us know your thoughts on Flashpoint Beyond in the comments below, and we'll see you next time when we talk about all things comics.